Hi, Chiffonda. I just wanted to give you this quick, well, maybe it might not be so quick, review of your work. Thank you for being so patient. It's been kind of crazy. So looking at your 10 sketches and similar to your 3 roughs, I am noticing that there are some things that are just need to be edited out, just keeping it simple. These are more simplified rather than these, just because this type of a logo will not be versatile because there's so many parts to it and it's not quite unifying with it. But I kind of get the idea of what you're trying to play around with here. So let's focus on, the very simple basic elements. And I really like the starfish idea that you have going on here. So I'm going to pull that off and I'm going to just go ahead and actually this is kind of cool how you have this, like, pull this over here, and I'm just going to get rid of all of this just so we have a clean slate here. All right, so the key is to keep it simple. I like that you're playing around with, the type. The only problem with this is you never really want to distort type, especially with a logo. So there's a better way to do this, and I know you use the effects tool for this. It's called warp flag, and that's great for other aesthetic elements. But when it comes to your actual typeface in your logo, for readability purposes, it's always good to kind of not distort the type in any way. So there's another way that you can do this using your type on a path tool, and that's right underneath your type tool. And it looks like a little, almost like a little type tool on a path. So we're going to go ahead and select that in your toolbar. But then we're going to create a line that it can follow upon. So if you take your trusted pen tool here, hopefully you're playing around with that, and you're going to make kind of like a similar line here, like a wave. So we're going to click one time, and then we're going to click another time, and before we release that click, we're going to click and drag so we have that nice Bezier curve going on there, and then we're going to click kind of similar to this angle here. Now we don't want to fill, we just want a stroke, so we're going to swap this so that we just have this nice stroke here. Then we're going to take the type on a path tool with that selected, and we're going to click anywhere on the very beginning of this line, and you'll see that a defaulted Greek type is placed in there. So we want to just spell out the name. And I'm just going to do little guppies and just make this really big. And you'll kind of see it flowing on that line. Okay. You can adjust this line. So if you take your direct selection tool, your white tool, and click right on the path, you can go ahead and change the angle. If you want to, you can make this line shorter so that you have more of that wave effect going on. So you could do something like that. But that's kind of what I would suggest if you're going to do type. So you can see this is being distorted because it's, going from big to small. And that could have readability issues. I would focus on this particular starfish, just make it a little bit bigger. How can you make this so it's memorable? What if you took, say, the ellipse tool and did a circle? So the ellipse tool is right here under your shapes. Hold on one second, I'm gonna fix my vacuum here. Okay, sorry about that. So I selected the circle tool and I held the shift key down, and that makes a perfect circle. And I'm just gonna make it an outline instead of a fill. Let me go ahead and put it in the middle here. And I can align these two by selecting the starfish, holding down my select key so I select the circle, and I go to my align button and just hit this little centered horizontal center. And visually you can, kind of adjust it if it looks a little off. Then what you can do is use this line as your path. So go ahead and take your type to a path tool, Click anywhere on this shaped line and you can type in little guppies. And when you do that, it's a little tricky, so you kind of have to get used to this. After you're done typing in there, if you want to kind of balance it so it's, you know, going above it instead of being on the side corner, this little straight line, which is halfway, it's not in the beginning, but halfway past what you typed, go ahead and click on that with your move tool and you can kind of adjust this so that it's, you know, aligned wherever you want it to be. It's kind of cool. You can play around with that. You can try all caps if that works better. Let's go back to type here and all caps. You know, kind of play around with it and see what you know, what font works best. Something very simple. It's actually kind of nice. Get a little smaller. And this should be big. It shouldn't be small. Okay. All right. So we're going to just plop this over. It's a little tricky sometimes, but let me zoom in here. And you can also move this over if you need to. It's about center. If you need help to see if it is center, go up to view and show rollers. Just go down to rollers, show rollers. And these rollers will show up horizontally on the top and vertically on the side. And if you click anywhere in here with your selection tool, click and drag, you can drag down these nice little margin guides that'll show you, you know, how to align to a specific area. And these are just really nice so that you can kind of double check your alignment. So I would just kind of fix this. And these don't print. These are guides. So you can unlock them, you can delete them, they won't print. Okay, the next thing you could play around with is, you know, the opposite of this. You can do something like this where you're copying this completely, copy paste, and instead putting that scuba school. So we would put scuba school, and I would make this much smaller. I'm gonna try like 24 here. It's pretty big. And the trick with this is you want it to read right. So this is over top of your logo. We want it to read right. So we want to kind of flip this inward. So what we're going to do is just pull that little, see that little line that I was telling you about before, this little line, pull that inward on itself, and you'll see that this will read right once you're going to get it in here. Within the circle. The only thing it does is it makes it smaller on a smaller circle because it's on the inside circle. So you might need to adjust the how big the circle is. Okay, so what I'm saying is, I'll show you, you'll see it when I drag this up here. So if I were to align this to fit this circle, see how it's like smaller here? So all I would do is just hold the shift key down and pull this out so that this little outer, oh, I don't have the shift key, hold on. So this little outer bounding box would meet the outer bounding box of this little guppies. So it's like proportionate or not here. Here we go. See how it's kind of, there we go. And then you can adjust where it's hitting on that line again. Oops. You might have to move the, oops. I'll zoom in here. It's a little tricky with these little lines because they're so hard to see, to manipulate. You might need to kind of adjust this a little bit. And again, just kind of drawing out a line to see if it's, there we go. So you could do something like this where, you know, you're kind of playing around. Let me pull this down a little bit. You're playing around with, you know, the overall shape, and then you could always add an actual circle. behind here. And you could do some fun things with this. Let's see. Do one more, make it bigger, and just copy paste, make this a little bit bigger. And then just make sure everything's centered. This little starfish needs to be moved a little bit. And then you could do stuff like this is a circle in itself. You could play around with, say, the stroke, where you're kind of making, show options here. Maybe this is a dashed line. Let's do 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And this is just the gap, you know, detailed gap. So I'm gonna, you know, it's kind of a nice little, you know, option to kind of play around with. You can even make this black. You just have to make everything else white. I'm trying to figure out what I did here. Okay, black. Do something like this. Let's do 3 gap. A little bit bigger here. I'm going to do no outline for this. You do something like that, so where it's very simplified, and then, you know, just kind of play around with it. See, see how you can make this maybe a little bit more kid friendly, maybe adding some cute little eyeballs to this like I showed you before. And maybe just need some friendly little crazy eyeballs here. And I'm just using that ellipse tool and filling no stroke for the eyeballs. Something like this where he's looking at you. And then you could play around with, say, the, this is really cool, something to play around with is your, where is it here? So it's not your stroke. Oh yeah, your stroke, I'm sorry. Go into your stroke, select your circle, and you can actually change the profile of that, which just means the shape of it. So you can actually do some really cool stuff in here, which different shapes. So make this a little thicker so you can see it. You can do some fun stuff with that. So that just gives it a different stroke. Let me show you real quick how that works. So instead of just having like a regular circle line, let me give it a little bit of a thick stroke here. You can change the thickness and thinness of it by choosing a different profile based in here. It's kind of cool, play around with. Just something to think about, something easy to change this to. And then what you can do as you go forward, if once it works, you know, once you say, oh, this looks great, then you can go in and actually change, you know, the color. You know, maybe you want it to be a little bit more fun looking. Or the color's a little bit more appropriate to what we're doing here. Let's see if we give this a dash line. Dash line is just the thickness of that dash. You know, it could be even as simple as that. Make this a little smaller. So play around with it, get this more simplified. You can even put the little dash on here, it'd be kind of cool. Then you can, you know, be similar to your edge here. Something to think about. So I think what you have is good. It's just you need to kind of edit out some things and work with locking your elements in place. If you're not caring about the circle option, as far as that goes, you don't even have to, you don't even have to do that. You could just do something as simple as, doing the starfish, sorry, little guppies. And let's say you want to do just like a flat horizontal variation of this. And let's make this orange. Probably going to swap this. You could do something like this. Just make sure that your mark isn't getting too big and it's, balancing with your name. Try different things here, and I'm just going to give this a no stroke. Oh, you can reverse this out too. You can make him maybe orange. I like this color combination, but completely up to you. Let's go to swatches here. That's easier just to pick from there. There we go. And then orange from there. Kind of like the yellow orange. Okay. And then I would change these to being that blue, maybe. Oops. It's kind of cool how that is, huh? We'll do like a, there you go. You just can't see that little outline now. You could do something really cute like this, where the outline is maybe a color. You want to do that dash line. I'm just doing like a 3 dash with a gap of 3. And then maybe just change the stroke. That's kind of cute. And, and it's okay if it's not balanced, kind of play around with it. Play around with the alignment of your I would definitely balance it like this. Not all on the left side, but you can kind of play around with the position of this little starfish guy. See what works. This is kind of a big gap in between here, a little bit too much of a big gap. I don't know if there's like an extra space in there or something. Oops. Looks like a big gap, so I could probably just pull that in a little bit. Like that. Sometimes you have to adjust those types of things. Okay, so if you're not feeling like the circle element is working for you, you can play around with that. But I like the simple starfish, just kind of make it a little bit more interesting visually, a little bit more memorable and fit for the brand. Your target audience are probably more so parents, but guess who's coming to the scuba school? It's for kids. It's little guppies. So you're attracting those adults, but the people that are actually going into the school are kids. So you want to make it look established yet fun. So it doesn't look too adult-like, but it is something that's professional. You trust your kids to go in and take this certain school to teach your kids how to swim. All right, well, let me know if you have any questions. I hope this helps. Simplify, 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 and have fun with it.